today's topic in the abdomen, further proceeding in the abdomen, right? Today we are going to discuss about the perineum. Actually, we are going to start the discussion because this perineum requires two lectures. So today I will introduce the perineum and we will proceed further in the perineum, and the completion of this perineum will be in the next lecture. So first, what is perineum? Perineum is a region. The terminology perineum is a region that is the lowermost part of the trunk, which is located between the uppermost part of the medial sides of the thigh. Recalling, that is the lowermost part of the trunk located between the uppermost part of the medial aspect of the thigh. Now here in this figure, this is a female perineum what you are observing over this right side. Now these two are the uppermost part of the thigh, and this yellow bounded diamond shaped area, that is the perineum. This is the external boundary of the perineum. Okay, so it's a lowermost part of the trunk, and this region of this trunk, that is the lowermost region of the trunk, contains the lowermost part of the GI system as well as the urogenital system. So this perineum contains the lowermost part of the GI alimentary canal as well as the urogenital tract. So here in this female perineum, one can easily observe this opening of the vagina, that of this urinary opening or the urethral opening, and here is the anal opening, anus. So that contains the openings of these urogenital tracts. Now, so this is about the introduction to the perineum. There is a location where it is located. There is a lowermost part of this trunk. Now, about the boundaries. So perineum, we can describe the boundary of the perineum in two ways. First is the surface boundary, which is located, or you can demarcate this perineum over the surface. What just here we have seen in this previous lecture, previous image. So this is the surface boundary, because one can see all the structures. So here in case of the female, it's a mons pubis. Anteriorly it is bounded by the scrotum in case of this male, and in case of the female it's a mons pubis. Posteriorly, two buttocks are there, and on each side, upper and medial parts of the thigh. Now let's have an image of that. Here, this is the female perineum. So one can see the mons pubis. In case of the male, it's a scrotum. Posteriorly, it's a two buttocks. And on each side, these are the uppermost part of this medial aspect of the thigh. So this is the surface boundary of the perineum. Now the deeper boundary of the perineum, here one can observe it. So here in the deeper boundary, let's have first enumeration. Internal boundaries. Anteriorly it's a pubic arch with the arcuate pubic ligament or the inferior pubic ligament. So here one can see this is the inferior view of the pelvis. This figure is the inferior view of the pelvis, and this one is the anterior part, this is posterior part. So here is the subarcuate pubic symphysis, and just below pubic symphysis is a subarcuate ligament. So anteriorly it's a subarcuate ligament. Posteriorly one can see that coccygeal tip is there, tip of the coccyx, and on each side from front to back it's a istiopubic rami. One can easily get that it's a istiopubic rami will be here. Then the ischial tuberosity, and this one is the sacrotuberous ligament. This line indicates the position of the sacrotuberous ligament extending between the sacrum and this ischial tuberosity. So this is the internal boundary or the anatomical borders, you can tell. That was the surface borders. Now this is the anatomical borders. Recalling the anatomical borders, anteriorly it's a pubic symphysis with the inferior pubic arcuate ligament. Posteriorly it's a coccygeal tip. Then on each side it's a istiopubic rami, then ischial tuberosity, and later on posteriorly or the laterally you can tell it's a sacrotuberous ligament. So this is about the boundaries of this perineum, external boundaries as well as the internal boundary. You can tell this anatomical borders which lies internally and the surface border, that is the external demarcation. Now this perineum for the descriptive purpose is divided into two parts, two triangles. One line extends connecting. Now see this figure. Once again you can see the boundary of this perineum, internal boundary. It's a pubic symphysis with the inferior arcuate pubic ligament, then istiopubic rami, ischial tuberosity, then sacrotuberous ligament, and here is the coccygeal tip. Now one can see this transverse line, dotted transverse line, that is going to connect the two ischial tuberosities. Now this transverse line basically divides these diamond shaped structures into two triangles. The anterior triangle is known as the urogenital triangle. It's known as the urogenital triangle, while this posterior triangle is known as the anal triangle. So basically this diamond shaped structure is divided by a transverse line into two triangles. Anterior one is the urogenital triangle and posterior one is the anal triangle. Now both these triangles contains the different structures, and we have to discuss these triangles one by one. So today our focus will be over the anal triangle. So we will complete the discussion about this anal triangle today, and in next lecture we will go for this urogenital triangle. So let's focus over the anal triangle. See, once again you can see whole perineum, and this is the demarcating boundaries, and this one posterior part is the anal triangle. Now this anal triangle, in the median part, presents from front to back, it's a perineal body. Then the anal opening or the anus, and more posteriorly it's a anococcygeal raphe. So in median plane, from front to back it possesses this, or it presents this structure. Anteriormost is the perineal body. Actually perineal body is a fibromuscular node located between this in the lower part of the perineum. Now behind that is the anus, and more posteriorly a raphe is there that extending between this coccyx and anus, that is a anococcygeal raphe. So that is in the median part. The external aspect of this median part of the anal triangle possesses this structure. Now the major part of the anal triangle on each side is occupied by one fossa, very important fossa, that is known as the istiorectal fossa. So this whole part, lateral part, is the istiorectal fossa on each side. See, this is the coronal section. Now here one can get this is the rectum in the median plane, this one is the anal canal, and this part is the istiorectal fossa. So what is istiorectal fossa? So istiorectal fossa is the fossa somewhat wedge shape. You can see that shape of the fossa, that is somewhat wedged. This one is the lateral border, this one is the medial border, and this you can see whole shape that is in the form of wedge. So it's a wedge shaped space on each side of the rectum and anal canal, and largely that is occupied by the fat. So this fat, largely this fossa is occupied by the fat, and these fat act as a cushion by distension of this rectum during the defecation. So that gives a mechanical support to this part. Now this istiorectal fossa, what we are going to discuss, so our basic points of the discussion of the istiorectal fossa is introduction, that I have just introduced this istiorectal fossa as a wedge shaped space, and I will explain the location also, that on each side of this anus and the lower part of the rectum. Now we will go for the boundary of the fossa. So this fossa, it's a wedge shape. So here you can see this one is the lateral wall of the fossa. So first you need to get the surrounding structure. This one whole, this is the pelvis. You can get it's a pelvis because the rectum and anal canal is there. So this one is the true pelvis. And what these sloping muscles are seen, that is the pelvic diaphragm. This one is these two are the pelvic diaphragm. Above the pelvic diaphragm, this one is the true pelvis. And below, this is the perineum. And this perineum, and here it's an anal triangle of the perineum. This one is the obturator internus muscle that gets origin from this internal aspect of the true pelvis. So this lateral boundary or the lateral wall of the, now we are going to discuss about this wall of the ischiorectal fossa. So first the lateral wall of this ischiorectal fossa is bounded by this muscle, obturator internus muscle, with its covering fascia, that is fascia covering the obturator internus. So this one is the lateral boundary. Now this medial boundary is a sloping boundary. So this sloping boundary is formed by this pelvic diaphragm, muscles of the pelvic diaphragm, and here in the lower part it's an external anal sphincter. So these parts contribute in the formation of this medial boundary, that here it's a pelvic diaphragm and here the external anal sphincter, and this pelvic diaphragm, of course, that is covered by a fascia that is known as the anal fascia. Just like a obturator internus, fascia covering the obturator internus, this one also is covered by this fascia that is known as the anal fascia. So we have discussed about these two boundaries, lateral boundary, obturator internus with its fascia, and medial boundary, that is a pelvic diaphragm with the anal fascia, and in the lower part is the external anal sphincter. Now here this one is the apex where these two boundaries merges. Medial and lateral boundary get merged, that is the apex. Now this one is the base that is formed by the skin. The lower part is the base that is formed by the skin of the button. So apex, base, medial boundary, lateral boundary. Now anteriorly, now you can't see the anterior and posterior extension or the boundaries. Now first you get this image. What's the section? It's a coronal, sagittal section. That was the coronal. Now this one is the sagittal section taken through this ischiorectal fossa. So here this one is the anterior part and this is posterior part. And this green colored bounded space is the ischiorectal fossa. So here in this figure you can see the anterior boundary. So this one is the anterior boundary in the lower part. So this is bounded by these two muscles of the urogenital triangle that we will discuss in the next lecture. You just remember the name of this muscle right now. They are the transverse perineal muscle, superficial as well as the deep transverse perineal muscle. And because they are the transversely located, and in this sagittal section only a small part, a small round is there in this figure. So this one is the superficial transverse perineal and this one is the deep transverse perineal. Actually the orientation of this muscle is like this if you observe from the lower aspect. So this is anterior boundary and this one is the posterior boundary where it is formed by this, you can see this large muscle. It's in fact the largest muscle of the body, that is the gluteus maximus. So lower part of the gluteus maximus forms the posterior boundary of this fossa. Along with this gluteus maximus, one sacrotuberous ligament is there that also contribute in the posterior boundary. So we have discussed about all these boundaries. Laterally, let's have a quick recap about the boundary. It's lateral, it's a obturator internus with the fascia. Medial one, which is a sloping boundary, is formed by pelvic diaphragm with the anal fascia, and in the lower part it's a external anal sphincter. Apex, this one is the apex, which is formed by the junction between the meeting between the medial and lateral boundaries. Base is formed by the skin. NTLA, it's a two perini muscles, transverse perini, superficial transverse perini, and deep transverse perini. And posterior is the lower part of this gluteus maximus along with the sacrotuberous ligament. Now, here in this figure, one can see the extension. This one is actually what I have told, this one is the anterior boundary, but if you trace this fossa, so somewhat triangular shape extension is there. This extension, so these and the same extension, the same type of the extension is there posteriorly also. So these two and both are somewhat triangular extension. They are the part of the ischiorectal fossa only, but they extend beyond the normal boundaries. So anteriorly they extend above this urogenital diaphragm. Whole this structure is the urogenital diaphragm that we will discuss in the next lecture. What my cursor is rounding, whole is the urogenital diaphragm, and one can get above this urogenital diaphragm, this triangular extension is there. So this triangular extension is known as the anterior recess, and that passes anteriorly. And here one more recess extends in relation to the sacrotuberous ligament and gluteus maximus, and which is comparatively small. That is known as the posterior recess. So two recesses extends from the main space. Anteriorly it's an anterior recess which is larger, and posteriorly it's a posterior recess which is comparatively smaller. So two recesses are there. So let's have a quick recap about this ischiorectal fossa, what we have discussed till now. First I have introduced the ischiorectal fossa as a space, wedge-shaped space on each side of the lower part of the rectum and anal canal. Then I have told about these boundaries. Lateral boundary, lateral wall, medial wall, apex, base, anterior boundary, posterior boundary, and then extension, that is an anterior recess and posterior recess. Now here, once again, this is the coronal section of this ischiorectal fossa. Now this one is the pelvic diaphragm forming the medial wall, and this one is the obturator internus muscle forming the lateral wall along with their fascia. This green colored line which just line these muscles, they are the fascia covering those muscles. Now here one can see one more green colored line that extends into the deeper aspect of the fossa, and that is in relation with this obturator fascia as well as this anal fascia. So these fascial disposition within the ischiorectal fossa is known as the lunate fascia. So one can get that within the depth of this ischiorectal fossa, one arched fascial disposition is there, which is in close contact with the fascia covering obturator internus over the lateral aspect and anal fascia over the medial aspect. So this arched fascia is known as the fascia lunata or the lunate fascia. Now here, this is the top tip of the lunate fascia or the apex of this lunate fascia, that is known as the tegmentum, or the summit of the lunate fascia, more appropriate words, the summit of the lunate fascia, it is known as the tegmentum. Now, next important part, that is the pudendal canal. Remember, pudendal canal lies within the ischiorectal fossa only. So don't get confused that this is a separate structure. That is a part and parcel of ischiorectal fossa. Now, let me show you the location. This hole is the ischiorectal fossa, wedge-shaped ischiorectal fossa, and we have just described the boundary or discussed the boundaries of the ischiorectal fossa. Now see, observe the lateral boundary. This one is the obturator internus muscle, and along with it's a fascia covering the obturator internus. And here will be, actually it's not in this figure, but lunate fascia, the location of the lunate fascia will be there. So here, in the lower part of this lateral wall, this lunate fascia and fascia covering obturator internus get separated to enclose a canal. Here it's a canal, and this canal contains the important neurovascular bundle of the perineum, and this canal is known as the pudendal canal. So one can get the pudendal canal is located in relation to the lateral wall of the ischiorectal fossa, and let's have a schematic representation about this. Now this one is the pudendal canal here, and here this canal is formed by the separation, or that is formed between these two fascia, that is a fascia covering the obturator internus and fascia lunata. So pudendal canal is somewhat curved canal in the relation to this lateral wall of this ischiorectal fossa, and that extends from the lesser sciatic foramen to the perineal membrane. Now I am explaining about this sentence. Let me tell you this, let me repeat this sentence. Extends from a lesser sciatic foramen to the perineal membrane. Now see, this is, first get about the structure. This one is the ischium, left ischium viewed from the internal aspect, inner aspect of the left ischium. This is a left pubis. Here this is a sacrospinous ligament. Here will be the sacrum. Here will be the ischial spine connecting this sacrospinous ligament. So this one is the greater sciatic foramen, and this one is the lesser sciatic foramen. Now one can get a nerve is shown that make exit from the pelvis through this greater sciatic foramen and enters within the perineum by the lesser sciatic foramen. So that is the pudendal nerve. Now as soon the pudendal nerve enters within this lesser sciatic foramen, so that is within the perineum. Now here one curved canal is shown, roughly light blue colored canal over the internal aspect of this bone, ischium. So this canal is the pudendal canal. So one can get that is extended from posterior, it is extended from this lesser sciatic foramen and traversing forward, and anteriorly that reaches up to the perineal membrane. Here is the attachment of the perineal membrane that we will discuss in the next lecture. So let me tell you, let me recall that sentence, that this pudendal canal is an interfacial canal located within the lateral wall of this ischiorectal fossa and extending from posteriorly from this lesser sciatic foramen, passing forward, and anteriorly it extends up to the perineal membrane. So, and roughly it lies roughly 2.5 centimeter above this ischial tuberosity. Now here is the location of the ischial tuberosity. So roughly 2.5 centimeter above the ischial tuberosity, the location of this pudendal canal over the inner aspect of the ischium. So this is about the location of the pudendal canal, from where it starts and where it ends, and what is the basic location and how it is formed. That is formed by this splitting of the fascia, that is an interfacial space between the fascia covering the obturator internus over the outer aspect and fascia lunata over the inner aspect. Now, which are the contents of the canal? So one content I have just told, it's a perineal nerve, pudendal nerve. This is the enumeration of these contents of the canal. Now, the chief neurovascular bundle is located within the pudendal canal. So the chief nerve of this perineum, it's a pudendal nerve, and the vessels is the internal pudendal vessels. So both are located within the pudendal canal. So here you can see a nerve. So perineal, as you know, the perineal nerve is the branch from the sacral plexus, and traversing in the pudendal canal. Actually, that enters within the perineum by passing through this lesser sciatic foramen, and within the pudendal canal, that gives a branch that divides into two terminal branches, dorsal nerve of penis and perineal nerve. Dorsal nerve of penis and perineal nerve, and before doing so, that gives one branch, that is an inferior rectal nerve. So here the dorsal nerve or penis and the perineal nerve, these two are the terminal branches, and before that, that gives an inferior rectal nerve. Now here once again you can see the neurovascular bundle. It's a pudendal nerve that gives a branch, that is a inferior rectal nerve, and later on that divides into terminal branches, that are dorsal nerve of penis and perineal nerve. Now the internal pudendal vessels or the internal pudendal artery also gives a branch, that is the inferior rectal vessels or inferior rectal arteries. So these inferior rectal neurovascular bundle, basically they derive from this pudendal nerve and these internal pudendal vessels, that is from the lateral wall of this istiorectal fossa. Now these, they have to innervate the lower part of this alimentary canal. So they traverses the istiorectal fossa from lateral to medial. Of course, the vein from lateral to medial, from medial to lateral, otherwise these two from lateral to medial. So this is about the pudendal canal. So in case of this pudendal canal, what I explained you, that pudendal canal, it's a canal which is located in relation to this lateral wall of the istiorectal fossa, extends from this lesser sciatic foramen to this perineal membrane, and that contains the important neurovascular bundle, that is a pudendal nerve and internal pudendal vessels. And these pudendal nerve and internal pudendal vessels, while coursing through this pudendal canal, they give a branches, that is an inferior rectal neurovascular bundle that supplies the lower part of this alimentary canal. Now next point is the subdivision of the istiorectal fossa. Now you have already got this figure number of times. So this one is the istiorectal fossa, this hole is there. Now I have told you about this fascia lunata or the lunate fascia, and the summit of this fascia is known as the tegmentum, that I have told. Now the small part of this istiorectal fossa above the tegmentum, part of the istiorectal fossa above the tegmentum is known as the suprategmental space. It is known as the suprategmental space. Now this large part below the suprategmental space up to this fascia, perianal fascia, this large part is known as the istiorectal space. This one is the suprategmental space, then this istiorectal space, and the portion which is superficial to this perianal fascia, this portion is known as the perianal space. So basically from deep to superficial there are three divisions of this istiorectal or the subdivisions of the istiorectal fossa. The uppermost is the suprategmental space, that is above this apex or the summit of this, that is above the tegmentum, that is the summit of this fascia lunata. Now this suprategmental space contains only a loose fat. It's a content of the suprategmental space is a loose fat. Now the content of this istiorectal space, which is between this level, between this tegmentum and this perianal fascia, this whole part contains the fat which is traversed by the fibrous septum, fibrous material. And this part is poorly supplied by the blood. No doubt this inferior rectal artery is there, but it's a poorly supplied by the nerve. properly supplied by the blood, and this lower part, that is a perianal fascia, that is made up of the compartment separated by the fibroelastic septa, and this compartment contains the loculi of the fat. That each compartment contains the fat. So that is in the form of different compartments, and this compartment is made up by this fibroelastic fascia and contains the fat. So basically these three subdivisions are there: suprategmental space, that is above the tegmentum, then the ischiorectal space, that is below tegmentum, between the tegmentum and this perianal fascia, and perianal space, a space that is superficial to this perianal fascia. So after the subdivisions, let's go towards the end of this fossa, that is the contents of the fossa. So which are the contents of the fossa? So first and foremost, the content of the pudendal canal. As I explained, the pudendal canal itself is located within the lateral wall of this fossa. So obviously the content of the pudendal canal will be under the content of the fossa also. So in the content of this pudendal canal we have just discussed, it's a perineal, pudendal now, and the internal pudendal vessels along with the branches. Then next one is the inferior rectal neurovascular bundle. That also we have discussed. This inferior rectal neurovascular bundle, they are the branch. Inferior rectal now is the branch from this pudendal now, and the inferior rectal vessels, they are the branch from these internal pudendal vessels. While this neurovascular bundle coursing through this pudendal canal, they give rise to the inferior rectal neurovascular bundle, and this inferior rectal neurovascular bundle, as I have shown in this figure, they passes from lateral to medial to reach the target. Next is the posterior scrotal neurovascular bundle. Now, as I told, the pudendal now, while traversing through this pudendal canal, that divides into the terminal branches, dorsal now, penis, and the perineal now. Now, this perineal now, that give rise to the posterior scrotal now, that is going to innervate the skin of the scrotum, posterior part of the skin of the scrotum. So here, this one is the perineal now, which is the branch of the pudendal now, and this one is the posterior scrotal now. So this posterior scrotal neurovascular bundle also is the content. And last but not least, that is a pad of the fat. Actually, largely, in the introduction also I told that the fossa is fully filled up or largely filled up by this fat. And all this content are located within the fat, embedded within the fat. So these are the contents of the fossa. So in the ischiorectal fossa, what we have discussed, first I have introduced the fossa as a wedge-shaped space on each side of this anal canal and lower part of the rectum. Then we have gone for these boundaries. Then in the lateral wall, I have told you about the pudendal canal, which is located in the lateral wall of this pudendal canal, in the ischiorectal fossa. Then I have told you the disposition of this fascia lunata. And lastly, the contents of the fossa. Before that, I have told you about these divisions into suprategmental space, ischiorectal space, and perianal space. And lastly, the contents of the ischiorectal fossa. Now proceeding towards the end, that is the applied aspect related with this region. First is the hiatus of Schwab. Now what is hiatus of Schwab? So here, this is the pelvic diaphragm. Levator ani, it's formed largely by the levator ani muscle, and the levator ani muscle that makes origin from the internal aspect of this pelvis. Here one can get that arises from here. Now sometimes a small part of the muscle fails to origin, fails to make a origin or fails to be attached to this wall of the pelvis. So one hiatus is formed. Here one can see in this figure, one arrow is shown between this muscle and this wall of the pelvis. So one hiatus is formed. That is known as the hiatus of Schwab. So here this levator ani fails to arises from the lateral wall of the pelvis in a small part. So that will lead to a space, that will lead to a opening, that is known as the hiatus of Schwab. And this hiatus, if it is large, then this pelvic organ may get herniated to this hiatus or through this hiatus within this istiorectal fossa. Here is the location of the pelvis. So if the hiatus of Schwab is large, the pelvic organ may get herniated through this hiatus and come to lie within the istiorectal fossa. Now, second is the perianal abscess. What is perianal abscess? As the name indicate, that is abscess in the region surrounding the anus, anal canal. Now here, as I told, this istiorectal fossa is largely filled up by the fat, and this region is poor in blood supply. So if any infection in this region is there, that may lead to the abscess. So that is known as the perianal abscess. Now this perianal abscess is very painful because in the lower part it's a fat is there and that is in the compartment. So the pressure is more. If the abscess is there, that will lead to a pressure, and because of that the abscess will be a painful. Now this abscess may find their way. This abscess or the pus in the abscess may find its way in the different direction. Here one can see the abscess burst from the skin. That is the external drainage of the abscess. That is external bursting in the skin. Sometimes the abscess find its way inside the anal canal. So one can get this black line. So this black line is a tract formed by this abscess, and that abscess passes through the tract within the anal canal. So that is known as the fistula in ano. So this region, istiorectal fossa, is liable for the infection because of this poor blood supply, and that infection leads to a abscess, and that abscess is painful, and that it finds its way in the different directions. So I think this is sufficient for this istiorectal fossa. So we have discussed today. Today I have introduced first the perineum, and later on I told you about this division of the perineum into two triangles, and we have completed the posterior of the anal triangle. So in next lecture we will proceed for this urogenital triangle.